So we're out in the woods. I'm out with Pagan Outdoors, and we're going to now just go through some general questions. I'm going to interview this guy. Well, not interview him, it's not that sort of thing, but a general chat and just some things that I thought you might like. So let's start. There's going to be a few pauses between it. I'm sorry if there is a few pauses. That's so I can get the question up, and we'll have a talk as well. So what would you say the best tips are for getting camping gear? Recommendations or ideas?
Basically, anyone you know, if you've got friends that go camping, ask them, see if they've been camping for a while. They should have bits of kit that they'd recommend. Going on to Facebook groups, wild camping, bushcrafting, depends what sort of area you want to go in. I mean, when you ask on there, you'll get like 1,000,001 answers, but normally you see sort of certain bits of kit that will pop up multiple times, so that tends to sort of give you an idea of the type of gear. You don't need to go over the top. I mean, if you've got a group, you may have a group in your area that does camping or bushcrafting and that, so you could go along for the day and just sort of see all the setups and sort of see what sort of thing you wanted. Military surplus shops tend to have quite good stuff going cheap at the moment because of everything in Europe, and that prices have shot up.
Oh, they've really shot up, haven't they? Just recently, I've noticed that a lot of the prices have gone up. Having seen that, we've still got the military surplus plus stores and all that lot, which are worth looking at, aren't they? And
yeah, try and support you if you've got a local one. Try and support that. I mean, you can go online and look at them ones. I mean, you got loads of sort of camping shops online. You've got bushcraft shops online. You've got sort of backpacking light type shops. So your ultra lightweight, depends on your budget. If you're going like, if you want just a basic bomb-proof setup, say you're going sort of on the ground, then sort of ground sheet, bivy bag, roll mat, sort of a modular free sleeping bag.
Well, I suppose it's worth bearing in mind, when we started out, most of the time, you know, you might see us with DD tarts and like that. It didn't start that way, did it? It was a gradual build-up. I mean, you just finding
my
gear.
Stuff was old army stuff, bashes, bivy bags. I mean, I still got it all now, but for ground dwelling, like I've got 3x3 DD. For my hammock tarps, it's like 4x4s. But I mean, they don't like break the bank, them tarps. And so sort of the setups, you can get like a cheap hammock setup off Amazon, which is perfectly good, and then you just need an under blanket and a sleeping bag to go in it, and you're sorted. So, but then say looking on YouTube, looking at people's channels, you get some that, like, I tend to hammock a lot. But
the only problem with that though, I find, is sometimes, I mean, on my channel and your channel, yes, I have done reviews and everything, but sometimes it's getting worried when you look on YouTube occasionally when there's too many. You don't know if it's just an alternative motive. Does that make sense? That's what. Yeah. Right.
Not me in the title. If you see sort of long-term reviews, so is it Jim Bob Outdoors? He does a lot of sort of long-term. I think it's Jim Bob Outdoors and Camping or something. He does a lot of long-term reviews. Any reviews that I've done have been and will be going forward sort of over a couple of years I've had the kit. So yeah, just be aware of people that have had kit given them and then they do review and they've not even sort of, if they're taken out once, you're lucky. So try and look for reviews that are long-term, so they've had them for a couple of years. So you tend to get a better, you get sort of more sort of pros and cons. And
having saying that, I've got new kit, then I've got new bits and bobs, but I'll try and be as honest and frank as I can. That's personal choice. If it's something new, you've got to be honest and frank as you can. And then sometimes I'm being honest when I do it. There are little things. I mean, we were talking about, I did one on a head torch, and I commented that it was not difficult to turn it onto certain settings. It's a fantastic torch, and don't get me wrong, it's amazing. Oh God, there's a bird up there. It shows you that this is authentic. But there's somebody on a bike earlier on. Anyway, moving on, but to what we're saying is some of the stuff I was getting, even though those torches and that nature, I was given that as a review, and I wanted to just feed something back for that company. Fair enough, but it wasn't affiliated or any way, which is said in my thing. But the point being is, if you're honest and you watch a review, it's looking at the honesty out of what's their inverted motive. You think?
Normally, if you see the reviews, they'll say it's a long term, and if they're honest enough, they'll say, "I've just got this. This is like an initial review, and we'll do another review in 6 months' time." So there's a few channels that do that. I mean, I don't think nowadays it's not as bad as it was. I think nowadays everyone's fairly upfront if they've been given kit to try, or if it's sort of long term stuff, rather than trying to blag new stuff as if you had it for ages. So I think nowadays it's fairly honest reviews for the most part, I think. I mean, the ones I watch anyway. But yeah, it's just a case of sort of looking around, looking at different people's setups, watching YouTube videos of people wild camping or bushcrafting. As I say, are you going to be in the woods, or are you going to be on the mountains, or a bit of both? And you just have to sort of keep in mind and wait. But then it all depends on your budget. If you got a lot of money to spend, then you can get a lightweight setup that will do both. But if you're on a budget, then you just have to be a bit mindful of sort of the gear you buy. But I tend to buy stuff that's sort of bomb proof and then go from there. But then I tend to be more in woods rather than elsewhere. Though this year I will be hopefully doing a few sort of more bit higher up camps up in Northumberland or Wales or wherever. So we've got a Essex camp to do. So
that's what we're looking at. Okay, I'm going to ask you the next question. So this question is, how do you stay safe when it's talking about wild animals and terrain? How do you get away from potential hazards, or how are you aware of them, so to speak?
Right, so when you're walking in, if you're looking for a potential campsite, number one, I mean, depending on your hammock or ground dwell, but number one is always look up in the trees for widowmakers, basically any branches that have come off the tree or from other trees and that are hanging up high, and all it needs is a little bit of movement in the trees and it will come down, and then you're toast. So you're looking for widowmakers, anything hung up, or trees that are blown over that are stuck like that in amongst the trees, and any movement that could come down. So you want to stay well clear from that. I mean, dangerous animals in the UK, I think the most dangerous animal is an hungry dog. So
yeah, and trust me, and what we've seen in my camps, how many dogs just come in. Now, actually saying that, we're having a joke about an angry dog, but sometimes you just got to be wary if you are camping, if there are dogs and people about. You don't always know that dog. I mean, it's all right, the owner saying, you know, that it's going to be okay and all this lot. It's still something you've got to think of, haven't you, really? Got to be aware of it.
I mean, you normally, if you're in like most places, you always want to try and stay away from the paths. Sometimes that's not possible. So like today, we're in between like a couple of crisscrossing paths in the woodlands, but we're sort of fairly out the way, low, being ground setups, we're fairly set low. We've sort of broken up the outline of the tarps and stuff, so we've had people walk past already, and it's only because we've moved or something, or stuck our heads up for whatever, and they've seen us. So but yeah, the only dangerous animals in the UK really are that, or if you go up and you come across a ram or something, or a bull in a field. So that's about as dangerous
international. I know there's international audience that listen to this. Obviously, I suppose it's, if you're going to go internationally,
if you've got bears, the main thing for bears is keeping your food in up high out the way, so you cook away from camp. Make sure you wash all your plates and cookware properly if you're keeping them at camp. Keep all your food up in a bear bag and make sure that's high out the way, especially if you're like, well, you can only do it in woodland. If you're camping on where there's no trees about, then you just have to sort of tie it down, put it in a bear bag, and I think they stake it down to the ground somewhere, and then hopefully the bear don't go off with it.
Situation would be different in the tropics, obviously. So in the tropics or anything like that. I mean, obviously we're not thing on that, but it's probably understanding or educating yourself about what's in the area and what animals around. I think that
Yeah,
would be the
just got-
biggest service, wouldn't
See
it,
what
really?
I mean. You can find the hazards in the area, and then snakes or whatever, and then just try and learn the things that will you can do to sort of keep that out of their way. But
Mitigating the risk, isn't it, really?
yeah, but in the UK, I mean, it tends to be dogs or say bulls or rams that get annoyed. But yeah, it's just, you just got to pick your area. You just got to check your terrain, check nothing's going to fall on you. Providing, I mean, there's not much really that can do in the UK that can really do you much harm. I mean, in the woodland, it's mainly widowmakers, just checking the trees are solid, or if they are a bit knackered, just check they're strong enough that you're attaching your hammock or your ridge lines to. You don't want them sort of falling over in the night. But if you're going up on the mountains or up high, say if you're going on Kinder or going up Snowdonia, Brecon Beacons, if you're going up in the woods.
The hazard with that is just knowing, letting people know where you are. And,
Yeah.
It's just basics, really, basic knowledge, basic sense.
There is a code, especially if you're going up in the mountains, or if you're going up, always sort of give someone your details. If you've got a route map, give them a copy of your route map, details of where you're going to be. If you're camping overnight, tell them if you roughly know where you're going to go, what time you're going to be back at your car, what time you're going to be home for, and details like that, and what you're wearing, what you're carrying, what navigation aid you got on you. And then if you don't make it back, they can give all that information to Mountain Rescue. And if they know what you're wearing, if you're wearing bright colours or dull colours, and that, and what your skill level is, what navigational aid you've got, and from that they can normally, it will aid them better in trying to find you. But if you're going up on the mountains, you're just checking that, I mean, if you have got a flat spot, you're just checking that there's been no landslides recently, there's no loose rocks above you that can shift in wind or whatnot. Just checking for scree, especially if that's above you. If you're in snow, yeah, just be really careful when you're setting up on a flat area. I mean, I know, watch a few channels and they camp up on top, or just try and keep out the breeze a bit. But so watching for like the snow cornices on the edge that can come down. I mean, even in this country, avalanches are dangerous. So you just got to read up on avalanches, how to tell where they'll be. I mean, that's a whole video in itself on sort of avalanches and how to sort of figure out where they're going to be, and due to weather conditions. But if it's wet or windy, sort of keeping on the lee side of the wind if you can. I mean, I know a lot of people like to go up on top of them and see how big a set of balls they've got and if they can stand out in the wind. But nowadays, I mean, I've done all that crap when I was youngest, so now it's, you want to be comfortable. You don't want to be holding on. You don't want to be holding on to the tarp for your life all night long.
One of the biggest hazards that I actually come across, and I'm going to be honest and I'm being frank with this, I don't normally get scared when I'm in the woods. I used to get a little bit worried, but when I went to a camp, when I went to Suffolk, I actually didn't realise just how much the heat was on one day, and I didn't bring enough water. And water being in the summertime can be one of the most, underestimated things, can't it? You don't realise how hot it is, and so one of the hazards to mitigate is to make sure you've got plenty of more than what you need.
Well, it all depends. I mean, that's another video in itself. But if you're going out, even in the winter, a lot of people get more dehydrated in the winter than they do in the summer, because they think if it's cold you don't need to drink as much, which is wrong. So you always need to make sure, if you can, if you've not, like in this woodland, we haven't got water source, so we have to carry in the water we need. So you should always sort of bring in, say, 3 litres a night, but then bring in a 1/4 litre just in case, and then if you don't use it, you don't use it. But if you need it, you got it, type of thing. Yeah, it weighs more, but if you're not going too far, which we haven't, then you're all right. But
it does happen. It does happen.
If you're walking far,
I got really, really worried, because I got really, really dehydrated, and I was worried that day. And I actually had to drink alcohol, which is the worst thing to have, just to get some liquids in my throat. And it was my own fault. It was my own fault. It's simple as that. So it can happen. So don't just think because you're a seasoned wild camper that you are infallible to risk. You should, in fact, in one respect, you should be more savvy.
It's more sometimes you get complacent and you just, I mean, sometimes you just forget. So, but I mean, if I always carry a water filter, be the soya mini or the soya sauce, soya sauce filter.
Yeah.
I don't like soy sauce, but and then I mean, you can always sort of try and, I mean, there's some dried streams, so you could always try and do a gypsy well if you really done it. I mean, but just carrying the water. I mean, if you're going up the mountains, normally you've got the cloughs, like around Kinder, you've got all the cloughs that you can get water from. Most mountains, you've got sort of streams to a degree running down into little waterfalls or whatever, so you can get your water from there. And then, or get your water as you're walking up, depending on what sort of elevation you're planning on camping on. You can sort of carry in a litre or two and then fill up, or take best one's to take like a flexible water bag that you can fill up, so you get halfway up. If you're only like half hour away from where you want to be, then fill it up somewhere, and then you're only carrying extra water for that last half an hour. So you really, if you're going up somewhere with limited water and you need to fill up, you need to sort of check your OS map properly.
Yeah.
Sort of rough area you want to camp, look for a water source, mark that on your map, and then take your water filtration, whatever one you want to use. Right,
next question. So what strategies do you normally use to make sure your camp is well maintained and cleaned and that nature? What would you?
Well, you should always keep your setup, whether you whatever setup you got. You always need to make sure your area is clean, your rubbish is kept in one bag, out the way somewhere, and preferably off the ground, so no rodents and that can get into it while you're asleep at night. Keep your food together in one place in a dry bag or whatever you got, and keep that somewhere. If you can't keep it up high, keep it sort of close to you, so hopefully the mice and stuff can't get in it. Just making sure there's no rubbish around. If you've got a fire going, use the fire etiquette to make sure the embers and stuff ain't flying around. When you're cooking, keep it all nice and neat. As soon as pots are finished with and you finished eating, get them washed up, get it out of the way, and then you can chill for the rest of the evening. Make sure, like, so with the ground set up, make sure your ground sheet's nice and clean, everything's set up, you know where everything is, especially this time of year when you've got longer nights. You want to be able to put your hand on what you need without having to root through everything, so you need to be well organised.
Craig, I find one of the biggest things that I've seen what a lot of seasoned people do, which is not always correct, is sometimes they'll leave the rubbish in there, but I feel like, you know, if you've been for a long time, you should know that even taking just a dustbin line or a bag, I couldn't actually sleep in a situation where there's, even with, you get lots of even seasoned professionals or seasoned people who do wild camp, they can be a bit lacklustre or like that. They leave rubbish around rather than think about just taking a bag, which sounds to us like it'd just be basics, but sometimes people forget, don't they?
It's just a case of sometimes you just get a bit lax on what you're doing, but you do need a good etiquette for your camping. You need to make sure everything, you know where everything is, everything's organised, your food's in one place, you know where your water is, you know where, like, sort of have an area for where you're cooking if you're not got a fire. So say like tonight I'm cooking on I've got my Storm Norman mess cone stove, so I've got that. I've got my cups, I know where all my water is, all my brew kit, all my food is. So you keep it all, if you've got it all organised, then sweet. As soon as you've got a bit of rubbish, put it in the bag.
I'm going to be honest and be truthful, right? I was saying about professional people, sometimes, you know, a lot of professional people the way round, so don't take that the wrong way. It's just that it's sometimes easy missed even in an advanced person's way. Sometimes they forget it. So it's not just people who are just going out, just starting off, that are not always leaving it clean. One of the things that I do tend to do that annoys me is I tend to actually lose things a lot, don't I? And my memory can go, it winds up in
things down.
Yeah, I put things down, don't forget.
Never find it for ages.
Yeah, so, but after a while it does that, even that gets easier. I mean, one of the biggest problems is leaving the house and forgetting something, and then when you're tidying up and cleaning up, you think you've got it there, and then you realise, don't you? So it's probably to organisation skills,
basically,
isn't it, really?
it's try not to rush.
Yeah.
If you take your time, and,
Yeah.
and like, if you take your time, pick your spot, do all the checks with the widowmakers and stuff, and like the previous question, then set up your camp, get organised, get it all done. I mean, we normally set up in the dark, so it takes a bit more time, but if you take it nice and easy, set all your areas up where you need to be. If you're cooking around a fire, check you got all your fire precautions and that ready, depending on the type of ground you got your fire on. Make sure you got your cooking bits ready, you know where your food is, you got gloves for handling hot pots and stuff, you know where your first aid kit is, just everything. If it chilled, not rushed, you've got everything organised, you got a specific place, like we have one bag between us for rubbish.
Yeah.
That's set up on one of the tripods.
I haven't put that
whatever.
up at the minute, but I will be putting it up later
But we
because
know-
I haven't got a lot of pro rubbish in it. But that is one of the
we
first
ain't got a
things. That's one of the first things I do, don't I? I put a
Mm.
bin liner, simple bin liner on the tree. You know what I mean? Even a bin liner with a bin liner, because that's happened before where I've took a bin liner and it's leaked. So these are just sort of things. But as long as you've got something like that, you don't fall into a trap of mess, do you? Really?
It's all just about organisation. So
Yeah.
you keep your rubbish off the floor away from rodents. You try and make sure your food's sorted, so that's away from anything that can have a play while you're sort of chilling out. Then it's just sort of camp etiquette, just keeping everything sorted, nice and chilled. If you're rushing around, you're going to lose things, and then it's going to.
And that happens.
And then
That
it's
does
going to
happen.
ruin.
That
I mean,
does
he
happen.
loses bits and bobs, and
Yeah,
but then
I'm
he
bad
normally
for it.
finds it again. But like I've always got spare cups because he's always losing his cup. But just chilled, organised.
Yeah.
Keep it nice and easy. No rushing. I mean, sometimes you have to rush to get set up. But once you're set up, then just sort of take a chill, have a brew, check everything's all. Once everything's organised, you're sorted. You can just chill, have a brew, and just enjoy wherever you're camping. But try not to rush, because then you lose stuff.
Question. Right. So what tips and insurances do you have to ensure you have enough water and food before you go?
Well, basically, I mean, a lot of people make lists when they're packing their kit. I try to, but then I normally forget where I put the list, to be fair. But, I mean, I've been doing this since I was a little kid, so you normally tend to put stuff in. I tend to have I have a bag set up for hammock camping, I have a bag set up for ground dwelling now. But I tend to have a brew kit, keep a brew kit in each bag. And in between trips, I make sure it's been refilled if I've used a lot of it. Food wise, depends what you're doing. I mean, I do a lot of sort of dried food or wet pouch food. I keep in store in my kit cupboard, and then take some of it out and then just keep it in the bag, and then it's always in the bag, so then when you go you don't forget it. Water, I tend to have at least a good few, like 3-4 litres for an overnighter, but I always make sure when I'm packing, I always clip my water source empty, ready to go, and then when I sort of move it by the front door, I can fill it up from the tap and sorted. But always, I mean, some people find a list, a kit list, and then you're ticking off stuff as you're going through it.
I don't normally have time to do that. I don't really think about it. I mean, it'd be nice. I did, that was intentions when I first come out to do a kit list. I did have the idea. In fact, I don't know, might have done it once. I don't remember doing it, to be honest. So it's not really something I do. What I tend to do, and I don't know if you've seen it, I've got like a little coffee pouch, doesn't it? You have a little coffee kit where I put all my coffee and all my milk and, you know, my 3-in-1 coffees in there. And it just, if you have, what tends better to do with food is to try and split your food, isn't it? And don't always have your food. This is one big mistake you mustn't do, honestly, you mustn't do this, is when you have your food all in one place, try and put it in different places. If something went wrong with one of your pieces of kit and you needed to eat, then what then? It's eventualities, isn't it? It's thinking ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a pouch or something that I have my brew kit stuff in, depending on the size of the bag. or what I'm doing. But I always have sort of 3-in-1s, some hot chocolates. I might have a cup of soups or something like that, and then that's normal. That'd be alright at a pinch. And then I'll put dry food and wet pouch stuff in a dry bag. But then say you bring in sort of fresh food, then normally that would sort of go in a different bag. So I tend to try and put all my stuff in my bag, where Laurie will bring a separate bag for food, which is another way of doing it. In the summer, you'd try and bring a cool bag or a cool box, depending on the sort of size and depending on if you're walking halfway up a mountain, you're not going to want to put a cool box. So a little cool bag will be enough, because no one wants to have a dodgy stomach at halfway or at the top of a mountain. So try and keep your sort of meat especially. But I mean, just carrying some veggies in a mesh bag in the top of your rucksack or in a lunchbox, so you don't crush it on the way up. So yeah, if you can't take a cool bag, or if you haven't got a way of keeping your meat cool, then I'd stick to sort of fresh veg in a lunchbox, or pre-cut it into bags and then put it in a lunchbox, and then it won't get all squished to buggery at the top of your bag.
On that point as well, if you're going to get things like meats, I know it sounds silly, but people forget this. If it was in a freezer in the supermarket, the night before you come, put it in the freezer before you come. I know it sounds silly, but it's not exactly hygienic if you leave it in the bag overnight. So just, if you're going to it's still a case of remembering it, but if you put it in the condition it came in when you got it in the supermarket, chances are when you get to camp, it's still going to be fresh. It's just one of those things that's worth bearing in mind if you're going to get meats, things like that. If it came out the fridge in the supermarket, then put it in the fridge the night and keep it in the night before, and then on the day it's still lovely and fresh and it lasts longer.
Or if you put it in, if you've got stuff previously, you can put it in the freezer and then you put it in your cool bag, and then by the time you get to wherever you're going, say if you're walking in the morning and you want to cook fresh stuff in the evening or tea time, if you put it in your bag frozen, by the time you get to wherever you're going, especially if it's like 25-30 degrees, then it will thaw out and then your meat will be in good condition. Because otherwise, if you put it in the morning and it's only chilled, and you've only got one ice block,
in the summertime, by
the time you get to to cooking it in the evening, it's going to be sweaty and horrible. So, but I mean, normally if it's meat wise, unless it's like a camp where I can sort of use my seat box trolley to bring it in on a cool box or something, normally it's sort of wet pouches for meat or tins of meat. And then but I'm going to start getting Mylar bags with like Ziploc tops. And then I can cook, when I cook,
we'll have to look at them when I
cook spag bowl and stuff, you can put them in Ziploc bags.
I'll be interested to see what they're like.
And then they're just basically like an army ration bag then.
And
then you can get cheaper than paying £7 for a bloody wet pouch meal at camp shop or whatever. But yeah, I always try and think that on the weather, like at the moment it's about 5-6 degrees. So say if we bought like we come over here lunchtime-ish, so we've got meat there, so it's perfectly good in the bag until this evening, because the ambient temperature, and even bacon, if we had bacon for the morning, it would still be good enough because of the temperature. But if it was in summer and you got 20 degrees at night, then you need a minimum a little ice bag, a little freezer bag with an ice block, just to try and so you don't get the squits and end up camping out behind a tree somewhere for the rest of your camp. So yeah, it's just a case of either having a list and ticking through it as you're going out the door, or just try and set stuff on the bag.
Next question. How do you set goals and realistic expectations when you go wild camping?
Basically,
or nature in general, or adventure.
Basically, you set it to your skill levels and how you are. So say if you're unfit and it's your first time wild camping, you shouldn't want to aim to camp on the top of Snowdon, because you wouldn't be able to do it. So you realistic expectations. So say that I'm disabled, so I can't do high level walks at the moment. and so I'm lowland, so I'm a forest amp anyway, so forest all the time. So it's basically a bit like a risk assessment. So you're looking at where you want to type of go, the distance of it, what sort of I mean, we know the woods, so we know sort of what the ground's like and stuff, but if you're in a new area, Google Earth, OS Maps, you can see the contours, if it's hilly, what sort of ground is it marshy, is it wet? And so for me, this area, even with a bit of sort of the ditches and stuff, I know where sort of the shallower areas, so I can cross safely without going through the big deep ditches. So basically you're setting it to your ability.
It's your skill set, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't want to, I mean, yeah, it's nice to say, oh yeah, I can walk like 5 miles and camp. I mean, I used to do a 30-mile walk and then camp, and then 30 miles the next day camp type of thing, but I can't do that now. So my realistic expectation is I can walk a little way, try and pack as light as I can. If I can carry it in, I will, but I've got a seat box trolley that normally puts me pack on and my other bits. Yeah, it's not very bushcrafty or sort of wild camping-esque, but it's what I need to be able to get out and do the camping, where Laurie can carry.
I was saying that my expectations is like you've got to stay within your skill set, but you don't really want to be pushing boundaries. But you do. It's difficult, isn't it? It's learning, isn't it? It's still, and then you grasp it as you go along, isn't there? There's always stuff to learn, but it's difficult because you want to expect an expectation of this is my skill set, this is my limit, but then
you need to push it a little bit, because otherwise you're never going to expand your knowledge.
Yeah.
But there's a thing of saying, right, I can do this, and I'd really like to do that, but at the moment my skill level is not that high.
Yeah.
So you're going to do this, but possibly push it a little bit. So say if you're used to going low level, and you want to perhaps next year want to try and climb, sort of go on to Kinder Plateau or something, then you just start doing walks up high and just do day walks. And then once you've got used to getting up that elevation and walking around and then coming back down for the day, then perhaps go up and possibly with a lightweight setup and try and pick somewhere flattish, fairly low down, and then sort of build yourself up to where you want to be. There's no point starting out and thinking, yeah, I'm going to go up there, and you've got no bloody chance, and then you're going to come down with a heavy backpack, and then you're not going to want to go camping ever again. So you've got to have realistic expectations. So you need to sort of start slow and just do what you can, and then you just keep a little, if you want to keep pushing it a little bit.
It's a bit reserved, isn't it? It's keeping that little bit reserved, isn't it?
I mean, in my case, I know my limits, so I'm not going to start going too bad, because otherwise I'll end up either in hospital or bedbound for like a couple of weeks. Yeah. So I know what to do, and I try and push it a little bit because I want to try and improve my health and try and do extra bits.
Excellent.
But
I like that question. That's a good question. That was really good, that one. Next. What tips would you say would you say for nature or enjoying outside? What tips would you say you can to enjoy nature and experience nature? What sort of things?
Basically, get off your bloody phones. So only use your phones for photographs, or if you're doing a bit of videoing, because I always see people walking around in the woods and you think, oh, they're enjoying the outdoors, and then you look at them and they're staring at the bloody phones or speaking to someone. So get off your phones. But basically, for me, it's the case of just chilling, relaxing, walking. I mean, I'll walk slow anyway because of where I am, but just sort of take your time. If you walk slowly, you tend to see more. You're not liable to frighten the wildlife away, rather than sort of speed walking and then you're completely missing what's around you. So just chill, take it easy, walk slow, look around. You're not just in what's in front of you, sides, like what's above you, even every now and again sort of looking where you've come from. So a lot of people always walking forward, but not a lot of people just stop and have a look what's behind them. Yeah. Because sometimes you look behind and you think, and you can see, and you're like, oh, that looks really nice. But I don't see a lot of people every now and again sort of looking behind and seeing where they've come from and you get a different angle of the woodland, or if you're out on the hills or wherever you are, even on, like, if you're canal towpath, if you're always looking forward, then yeah, that's a good perspective. But every now and again, it's good just to stop, turn around and see where you come from.
I think regarding nature, to me, is it's precious. And I know it sounds silly, but it is precious. I suppose if you're out in nature, you can see change, can't you? You can notice it. So it's taking the element and capturing the moment. Sometimes taking pictures of something. We talked about not using phones. We mean in phones, I know with video and like we're saying there, but we're talking about is people just looking at the phones, not appreciating nature. You can use your phone for a good purpose, like taking a picture or a video, and it's capturing the moment. Because unfortunately, there's lots of construction goes on, and lots of places I know it gets political, but it's still a thing. It's still a situation, isn't it, where we're finding too much, where people are taking nature for granted, don't you think, and not seeing what there is.
You have to appreciate what you've got. But when you walk in, I'll be doing videos in the future. When you do your sort of your mindfulness and you walk slowly, quietly, and not shouting to the person next to you. So go quietly, walk slowly, appreciate what's around, listen to what is around you, whatever the weather. It could be peeing it down with rain or bright sunshine. But just walk around slowly, look what's around, take it all in, appreciate what you have. Because
it could be
sometimes
gone.
It could be gone. It could be built on. It could be like if you're in like we're in plantation woodland here. There's supposed to be sort of felling a lot of it and putting deciduous in, native woodlands in. But on plantation side, sometimes you can go camp 1 week, come back the next week, and there's bugger all there because it's all been chopped down. Or in a lot of woodlands in towns and cities, you could have a bit of greenbelt land. And one day you're walking through it, and the next day there's a bloody great digger digging half of it up. So appreciate what you've got, even if in a back garden or
Nurture
wherever.
nature, nurture it. End of the day,
appreciate it.
You know, this is the truth. Is a sad fact of the UK at the minute, and Britain in general, is we'd like to think that we're environmentally friendly and all this lot, but yet we're not. No, not always. We talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. Is that a good situation?
There is a growing movement
to
keep nature, to help nature, to try and, like with the reforesting projects, rewilding projects. I mean, I'm a volunteer ranger on a rewilding project, and trying to surveying what we've got and trying to help declining species with habitats. But yeah, it's just sort of slowing down, try and quieten down. I mean, I walk with my kids, and sometimes they get a bit noisy, but sort of trying to quieten down a bit. If you're quiet and you're walking slowly, the amount of wildlife you'll come across, you'll see, because most people are walking fast, noisily, and the wildlife's buggered off half hour beforehand because they've heard you coming.
While camping and being out in nature, you will find, other than just having the odd walk and everything, you'll find actually there's a lot more nature than what you think. The thing is, when you just walk through somewhere and you don't notice it, because the reason you don't notice it is because you're not looking. And the thing is, when you're out here and you're sat like we are now, you can hear the odd owl, you can hear the odd bird.
We'll have deer later on. A couple of owls. I mean, we are slightly, well, where we are now, we are slightly closer to a road that runs through the woodland, and sometimes we are. But you'll get the deer, you get the owls, get all sorts of wildlife coming through, and we just lay down in our rigs later, just chilling, and you'll see stuff wander past if you're quiet enough. So it's all just about keeping quiet and just not
embrace it.
Animals can sense.
It's fantastic to
Animals
embrace
can sense stuff more than you realise. So it's just a case of just taking it easy and just relaxing and just.
On that note, what an excellent interview that was. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So, if you like that sort of content, it's just something different, something more involved, if you like. Thanks for watching New Camping Man. There's more videos. I'm out in the woods. I'll be filming later on tonight and filming on later on today on a different concept. Have a look at my description about this interview, blog, whatever you want to call it, but a talk. But the point being, I hope you found that informative. Stay safe. Thanks for watching New Camping Man. Andy.